taking the time out. మీరు అడిగింది వ్యక్తిత్వ వికాసంలో ఉన్నారు. I think every human being eventually, be it a man or a woman or whoever it is, I think end of the day, your life experiences really make you what you are. One of the strongest influences on me has been my mother, because without a question, my father, was a super busy man. And of course, credit where it's due, he was in public life. So I would never understand back then as to why he was missing in action, why we couldn't see him for so many days. But now I'm in his role. I'm actually on the other side of the table now, so I can relate to what he must have gone through. Kani nijanga kuda growing up with, and I didn't spend much time with my mother also. Nenu 10th class lopale I was in 7 different schools, and I was in 4 or 5 different hostels.
Okay.
So atla early childhood was very interesting and a toughening exercise. Etla ante ఆ రోజుల్లో I'm quite old actually, so 47, 48. So ఆ రోజుల్లో, which is about 30-35 years ago, it was a different world. We didn't have as many amenities, as many things as the kids these days do. అయితే ఆ రోజుల్లో, అప్పుడున్న పరిస్థితుల్లో మా మదర్కి, తనకి మా నాన్నమ్మ, మా అమ్మ వాళ్ళ ఇంట్లో, మా నాన్న వాళ్ళ ఇంట్లో 9 మంది అక్క చెల్లెలు మా ఫాదర్కి. And the situation, like a typical Telugu household where kodalu should take care of all the andaru, ma vadinalu, ma vala maradalu, ma attalu, plus my father ku inko brother unnaru. So pedda family, very big joint family. So iga tanaki anta pani unna, tanaki mottham okai family pressure unna, but she made sure that she never showed me her weakness, her weak side. I think that's one of the most important messages the kids get from us. There's a lot of incidental learning. అంటే కాకతాళీయంగా నేర్చుకునేది ఎక్కువ ఉంటుంది. అంటే కూర్చోబెట్టి లెక్చర్ ఇచ్చినట్టు చెప్తే ఏ పిల్లోడు వినడు, ఏ పిల్ల వినదు. ఎందుకంటే దే ఆర్ నాట్ యూస్ టు adults preaching to them. If you sound too preachy, they'll basically ignore you and act like they're listening, but they won't. But how we behave, how we kind of perform in our day-to-day lives, in spite of our pressures, in spite of our work pressures, in spite of our life pressures, in spite of all the existential realities, iyanni undanga kuda, how do you manage to keep a balance? I think that is one of the most important things I've picked up from my mother. She's gone through a very tough kind of a early life, because I think she was married at the age of 14. My father and mother were married when they were like 14 and 15. So you can imagine, aputlo, I guess the act was not there, Sharada Act. So ఆ రోజుల్లో when she came in, and I was in the world already when she was 20 or 21. So you can imagine being a parent at 20, 21, you're basically an adolescent, and you're already a parent. So you can imagine what kind of experience she must have gone through. And nijanga kuda lot of credit to her, of course. And then my wife, we've been now married for 20 years almost, and she comes from a non-political family. Her father was a bureaucrat, he was a retired forest officer. And అమ్మాయికి నాన్ పొలిటికల్ ఫ్యామిలీ అమ్మాయి వచ్చి పొలిటికల్ ఫ్యామిలీలో అంటే ఇది ఒక సర్కస్. మాది నిజంగా కూడా సర్కస్.
వెరీ ట్రూ. అంటే
రోజు ఇంట్లోకి వస్తే చూడాలి, బయట ఎన్ని చెప్పులు ఉన్నాయని చూస్తే అరస్తారు. సో ఇంట్లో ఇంతమంది ఉన్నారు, సో మనం మెల్లిగా అటు నుంచి వెళ్ళిపోవాలి, ఇటు నుంచి వెళ్ళిపోవాలి. అమ్మాయి ఏమో షీఈ్ పాపం ప్రైవసీ కోరుకునే అమ్మాయి. అట్లాంటి అమ్మాయికి ఈ పబ్లిక్ లైఫ్లో సడన్గా థ్రస్ట్ చేయడం అంటే ఇట్స్ ఎ హ్యూజ్ ఛాలెంజ్. అండ్ kudos to her for putting up with me. I think she continues to live with all the things that all the nuisance that I bring into her life. So thanks to her for her patience and endeavor. And of course my sister, my daughter, I think my sister again is a fighter. She's a dynamic, possibly మా మొత్తం ఫ్యామిలీలోనే బాగా గట్స్ ఎక్కువ ఉన్న అమ్మాయి ఎవరు అంటే మా సిస్టర్, అని డౌట్ లేదు. మా అందరికంటే అగ్రెసివ్. Then my daughter is a sobering influence. She's only 14, but she speaks like a 40-year-old woman. And she's very wise. Like when she was like 5 or 6, she told me one day, she said, Dada, don't have a goal post. I said, why? She said, no, a goal post ki reach out, then you'll relax. So never have a goal post. Then she told me much later, she's a very smart girl. She told me much later, about 3 or 4 years ago, she said, all the wise things I used to say those days, you remember, you keep referring to, I picked up all of them from Insta, right?
Oh,
I said, అది ఒరిజినల్ అనుకున్నానంటే కాదు కాదు అక్కడ ఇక్కడ చూసి నేను చెప్పిందే. సో పాయింట్ ఏంటంటే షీ's a very calming influence. And she's amazingly, she's a writer. She's already written a couple of books, a very young writer, and she's very creative. And she's one of those really uh, calming influences in my life. And I think my life has changed quite a bit after her. And then, of course, I also interact with a number of women leaders.
yes.
My day-to-day life, in my public life. Again, a lot of very, very strong women that I interact with. I can give you an example of one of the leaders in my constituency. ఒక అమ్మాయి సంపూర్ణ అమ్మాయి పేరు. 2014 ఎలక్షన్లో I was campaigning in Sirsila. సో ఒక ఊరికి వెళ్ళాలి, ఒక ఊరు పేరు గజసింగవరం. అయితే కాంగ్రెస్ క్యాండిడేట్ ఊరు అది. ఆ ఊళ్ళోకి నన్ను రానివ్వము అని చెప్పి ఐ థింక్ దే ఎరెక్టెడ్ అ బ్యారియర్ ఆర్ సంథింగ్. ఐ సెడ్ ఫైన్, ఒక విలేజ్ పోతే పోతాం లేకపోతే లేదు, విల్ విన్. సో ఐ వాస్ గోయింగ్ అవే. దెన్ దిస్ గర్ల్, షీఈస్ అ లీడర్ ఆఫ్ అవర్ పార్టీ, షీ బిలాంగ్స్ టు దట్ విలేజ్. ఐ డెంట్ నో హర్ టిల్ దెన్, అప్పటిదాకా నాకు పెద్దగా తెలియదు. షీ కమ్స్ అక్రాస్, లైక్ షీ లిటరలీ స్టాప్స్ మై కార్. She literally stops my car and she says, how can you not campaign in my village? I am going to take you in. Mundundi, she took me there. She made sure I campaigned. And then I was so impressed with her. As soon as I got an opportunity, because she's somebody I didn't know very well of. ఎప్పుడైతే నాకు ఛాన్స్ దొరికిందో నేను మళ్ళీ గవర్నమెంట్లోకి రాగానే, I made her my agriculture market committee chairman the very first instance I got. So very, very strong women leaders, and I also interact with number of course, other bureaucrats. Our chief secretary garu kuda, she's a women officer. Yes. She's a very, very strong lady, Shanti Kumari garu. And then I can also tell you that I work with number of other women. If we have Deepthi garu naru, she's somebody I work with closely. My office, I have Katyayani, who's my OSD, again a very strong lady. I can go on. There's a number of people. But most importantly, what I also look up to, in fact, incidentally, Hyderabad నుంచి వచ్చిన మీరు స్పోర్టింగ్ సూపర్ స్టార్స్ అందరూ చూస్తే అందరూ విమెన్.
కరెక్ట్.
సానియా, సైనా, సింధు, నౌ నిజామాబాద్ నుంచి నిఖత్ జరీన్, తర్వాత యూ కెన్ సీ గుతా జ్వాలా, అండ్ దెన్ సో మెనీ అదర్స్, ఈషా సింగ్ నౌ, Naina Jaiswal. So all of these young women who have done exceedingly well in individual sports, I keep running into them, every so often. Ikkada akkada with different events we meet each other, and I'm incredibly impressed with their work ethic. There's so much to learn from these young ladies, the way they balance their lives, professional sport, giving time there and also giving time to the family, especially if they are married and have children, balancing that out as well. So all of these amazing things. And of course, I also have to mention Mahima Datla, Suchitra Ella, again, two women who were talked about quite often during entire COVID episode, Biological Evans and Bharat Biotech. Again, very strong women, interact very closely quite often. So I interact with number of women, and of course I interact with a lot of young women who are students. When I go to IT hubs and different districts, I interact with a lot of them as well. Some strong, resilient, resilience is what I really kind of pick up from each of these young women and women. And more importantly, I think one trait that I would like to imbibe, if possible, that is the mental fortitude and the mental strength of women. That unfortunately men do not have. I think we break easy. You guys don't. You're stronger mentally, and I do hope that we can pick up that. Especially in elections, we need that. So hopefully, I'll also get to pick up a few of those.
Yeah. సో కేటీఆర్ గారు, మనం వార్మప్ సెషన్ అయిపోయింది, ఇప్పుడు కొంచెం సీరియస్ సెషన్కి వెళ్ళిపోదాము. ఓకే సార్, 9.5 years ఆఫ్ మీ గవర్నమెంట్లో ఎన్నో స్కీమ్స్, ఎన్నో డెవలప్మెంటల్ యాక్టివిటీస్ ఎన్నో తీసుకొచ్చారు. అందులో విమెన్ ఇంక్లూజివిటీ అనేది ఏమన్నా ఒక అంశం ఉంటే అది ఏంటి అని మీరు అనుకుంటున్నారు? ఈ 9.5 yearsలో టు వాట్ ఎక్స్టెంట్ యూ సా దట్ విమెన్ రియలీ గ్రూ ఎక్స్పోనెన్షియల్లీ?
The one question I think women need to ask themselves, do you want to be exclusive or inclusive?
Inclusive. Yeah.
If you ask me what are the things that you've done exclusively for women, there's a bunch of things that we do. But if it's the larger inclusivity part and what you've done for people at large, there's again a huge list of things that we've done. Prior to 2014, 2014 kante mundu, you used to, I'm not saying they've completely disappeared, I would be lying if I did that. You used to read a lot of these horror stories, like Devara Kondalo, అప్పుడే పుట్టిన బిడ్డను అమ్ముకున్నారు, లేదా ఓల్డ్ సిటీలో ఒక అమ్మాయి చిన్న పిల్లకి ఒక ముసలి అరబ్ షేక్తో పెళ్లి చేశారు. ఇట్లాంటి కొన్ని స్టోరీస్ ఉన్నప్పుడు యూ రియలీ, ఐ మీన్, నో మ్యాటర్ యూ మే నాట్ హవ్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్డ్ ఇట్ పర్సనలీ, యూ మే నాట్ ఈవెన్ బి అ ఉమెన్ or a girl, but you'd be shattered. You'd be looking at it and saying on a human level, you'd be like, what is wrong with our society? How can this be, right? And when you see stories like how women have to feed their children, knowing fully well that the water is not potable, the water is actually causing fluorosis, still you have to give the same water because there's no choice, like in Nalgonda. ఇవన్నీ చూసినప్పుడు at a very human level, at a very primordial human being level, homo sapien level, you feel very insulted. You feel, as a government, can you not get these basics sorted, right? So one of the most important things that we have done, if you ask me, is providing potable drinking water connection to each and every home. Unfortunately, in a country like India, it's a shame that 75 years after independence, a government has to sit and claim that हमने पानी पिलाया, इसलिए हमने कुछ चप्पड़ फाड़ के कुछ काम किया. That's a basic thing that somebody has to have done long back. But nobody did it. But we became the first state in India to have given a portable drinking water connection to each and every one of our 10 million homes. And then that inspired Prime Minister and his government to take up Har Ghar Jal campaign, which is a good thing. So what we have done, for example, again, we launched 200 plus schools for minority, 100 plus schools for minority young women. ఇనిషియల్లీ ముస్లిం మైనారిటీ అండ్ క్రిస్టియన్ మైనారిటీ పిల్లల కోసం మేము స్కూల్స్ లాంచ్ చేస్తున్నప్పుడు some people have told us that, you know, this is not going to work. They said, no, Muslim young women don't come out and stay in residential schools. Ye to nahi chalega. But KTR garu didn't listen. He said, no, it's not the case. Everybody wants education. Everybody wants basics to be taken care. You're wrong. And he went ahead with conviction. Today I'm happy to report to you all that more than 204 schools have been launched for Muslim minorities, in which we have nearly 1,15,000 students, out of which 57,000 are young women. Wow. And all of them are getting quality education. On each child, we spend 1,20,000 rupees. We take care of all their basic needs, books, their clothing, their basic needs, etc., etc. Everything is taken care of. On each child, we spend 10,000 rupees per month. What this has done is now these young women are cracking NEET, they're cracking IITs, NITs, IIMs. I think you train a woman, young women especially, I think you're literally training a generation of young women who can literally become the beacons of change and the beacons of hope. Now, this is something that is truly, wonderful. If you ask me, that's a true achievement.